can we make up our own written prayers? And by that, and in this case, I'm assuming she means not spontaneous prayers, but her own written prayers to use ritualistically, correct? Deb, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I take your question. And in asking that question, I also want to ask at the same time, how important are personal prayers, be they spontaneous or ritual, in addition to established liturgical or ritual prayers?
Okay. Wow. I wish we could break this down like more because you're gonna have to help me because I'm gonna forget one of
Okay.
these. First of all, regarding the importance of personal prayer or spontaneous prayer as opposed to standardized ritualized prayer, um, how does it compare insofar as importance? Well, it depends on what we're asking. What importance? Is it more important than ritualized prayer, or is ritualized prayer more important than spontaneous, heartfelt prayer? In what context, or with what reality in mind? I would say that they're equally important. If in an ideal world, everybody was eloquent and everybody had the natural ability to just pour their heart out to God at any moment on any day, then I think لَخَطِّ to use the term we learned last week, لَخَطِّ ideally in an ideal world, spontaneous prayer would by far be more important and preferred, and we may not even need ritualized prayer. Maybe ritualized prayer would still have a good function for special occasions when the entire community is coming together. But in an idealized prayer, if we were all on the level of prophets, maybe that could happen spontaneously. It seems to be that happened at some points in time in the Bible. At least that's the impression. It seems that they all joined together sort of in a unified way. It doesn't state that those were codified prayers. They may have been, and the text is just silent on it. But there's definitely places in the Bible where it seems they're praying en masse and
Yeah.
the
I
same thing.
picture a flash bomb, but in a prayer version.
Yes, yeah. But
Flash mob. That's it. Flash
yeah, I
mob.
like that. I like that idea. Uh, like, how do they all know to prostrate all at the same time? But I guess if they see all the leaders in front of them doing it, then everybody just kind of follows their lead. So they're saying they would use Tanakh. Okay, as long as you're just using a text from Tehillim, that's fine. As long as you're making this your personal practice for whatever reason, that's within the purview of Jewish tradition. But if you're standardizing that for a local community which is not Jewish, uh, I would I would say first establish the keeping of Jewish prayers as we've established them, and you can have a set time after those prayers, perhaps, where you all do your own personalized prayers, but don't have a ritualized prayer that you've come up with um, that that is like your community's ritualized prayer that you guys innovated together. If you're not a community of Israel, I would also encourage, and I think this is something that all Jews should encourage for our own safety, to make sure that another new religion doesn't pop out of the Noahide religion, which could very well happen, and I think has already happened in some ways. I would strongly encourage all Noahides. You don't have to become Israelites. You don't have to officially become Jewish. But for your sake and for our sake, I encourage you to make communities, to meet regularly, at least once a week, but also invest in having a rabbi, a Jewish teacher, ideally at least three. And this is true also for Jews. Ideally, you don't have one rabbi. You have at least three, at least. And that also is b'di'avad. Ideally, you would have a minyan, and then you will be part of that community. It is not ideal that you will be a Noahide community all by yourselves in Alabama and you don't have a Jewish leader nearby, a scholar who you can learn from directly. So invest in having, the same way that a Christian community would invest in having a pastor, make a pastor, have a pastor, and make sure he's an educated Jew. There are a lot of poor, educated Jews around the world. A lot. This could be an amazing thing if this would become standard practice, and it should be standard practice for serious Noahides. Again, you don't have to be Jewish, but just that they would guide you. This, you would be doing so many mitzvot by doing this. I don't want to get on a tangent because the question was about prayer, but there's so much to say about that. If you guys could remind me on another occasion to get
But
more
I
into.
think we pretty much covered that. And I would just add my own personal thoughts is when I first kind of discovered Judaism after my extended past outside of Israel. I fell in love with the idea of the ritual liturgical prayers because it appealed to me the idea of connecting to what every Jew around the world is doing at the same time. And not only now, but all Jews, past, present, and future, you're connecting to that by engaging in those ritual prayers.
Yes,
And so,
the values. The values
yeah,
are being transferred from generation to generation. What we
exactly.
prioritize to be mentioned in the prayers show our values.
And so I immediately saw and grasped onto the value of that, but without leaving my Pentecostal um, desire to connect to God spontaneously.
So there should be a middle path,
Right. Both.
and there should be a middle path. And the way that our sages instituted the Amidah, the way that our sages instituted public prayer in the Jewish world is very much a logical and reasonable, very edifying middle path. The problem is that the majority of the Jewish world, even the majority of the Orthodox world, just do what they saw their community doing as they grew up and never even read one time the entirety of the laws of prayer. I encourage everybody, if you embraced the mitzvah of praying to God, to read the laws of prayer. Ideally, even in a public prayer, you innovate your own words in the middle of the Amidah. This becomes much less feasible when we add so much more to public prayers than our sages instituted. Then it becomes more difficult to do things properly when we add one thing on another over generations, and it just starts to defeat the purpose. Ideally, our sages instituted this. This is not Rabbi Yosef making this up. Read it in the Mishnah, in the Talmud, in the Mishnah Torah. It's all there. They did not institute the Amidah for you to just be saying the same Amidah every single day, but rather the intermediate blessings, not the first three and the last three, but the intermediate blessings, which are requests, were supposed to be prompts for you. They're prompts to direct your mind to what is on your heart and what's been bothering you, so that when we pray for the redemption of Israel, that we insert there our words and our heartfelt pain for what's going on in Israel today. When you mention a prayer for knowledge, right? That's one of the daily intermediate blessings. That at that point, you pray God to give you guidance and understanding and humility and intellectual honesty to understand and not to permit what is forbidden and not to forbid what's permitted in that section of that tractate of the Talmud that you've been learning with your study partner, or that you not miss a really fundamental aspect of human physiology for that biology test you're studying for in university. This is the way that Amidah was intended, not just me reacting to modern day Pentecostals who are getting interested in Judaism, for example. This is what's in the Mishnah. This is what's in the Mishnah. This is what's in the Talmud. And it's frequently not done. Most people don't even know you can do that. And finally, at the end of the Amidah, our sages instituted the practice that you sit on the ground and you fall on your face before the Almighty and you pour out your heart to Him with words of prayer, Kol ma sheyirseh, all that He wants, all that He desires to bring before the Lord. He does that at the end of the Amidah. Okay, and then he sits and says further supplication while sitting. Okay, not everybody can do this physically, but most people can. If you're not able to do it physically, if you're able to lean without pain, then do that, lean over. This is what originated the popular practice today, that Ashkenazi Jews do this part of our daily prayers, leaning on a table onto their arm. They never officially abolished this halakha. They just stopped practicing it because of circumstances in Europe. Synagogues had to be small. It was tight. It was crowded, and it was muddy on the floor because they were impoverished for the most part, cold and wet. This wasn't the dry Middle East. It's easier, even if you're poor and sitting on dirt, it's easier to sit on sand in the Middle East than to sit on a muddy floor in Europe. So they abandoned this practice, but not officially. It got modified, so now they prostrate in sitting form like this. And this is done all over the Jewish world. So don't do this in your public, in your local Orthodox synagogue, unless you got permission from your local Orthodox rabbi, which would be amazing. Something tells me that in the future, this is going to become more commonplace as education increases. But if you're in the process of converting, don't bring it up. It's going to make you more problems than not. But by all means, do it in the privacy of your own home or with friends who are like-minded, as long as you are being careful to separate your face from a stone floor. If the floor is not stone, there's no worry.
We're Mishloach, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned, on the Mishloach, wisdom is yours. Rabbi Akiva's teachings a guiding light, Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The oral Torah, treasure to share, on the Mishloach, we're all aware. A Mishloach, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned, on the Mishloach, wisdom is yours. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way, on the Mishloach, every single day. Mishloach, every single day. The Mishloach, every single day. Mishloach, a journey of the soul. We're Mishloach, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned, on the Mishloach, wisdom is yours. The Mishloach, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth, on the Mishloach, with hearts like roots.